Hello, hello, hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to the latest broadcast for Where We Go One, We Go All. Love Frontlines. That it's always a mouthful. I was thinking of shortening it to Where We Go One, but it's okay. I finally got WWG1 WGA.LOVE. So welcome. Today, for me, is Tuesday, June 18th. June is just flying by, and we're expecting a lot of things on the front lines to happen. So that does seem like there is there always is this anticipation it's going to happen this week. This happened this week. Sounds like GCR, but that's always tomorrow. Tomorrow. But in this case, things are really happening. And there's a few things I want to discuss today. But the first and foremost, it's about the situation with Iran. We've had, over my lifetime, when I first, was in high school and looking at the enemies, right? It was always Russia, right? Never talked about North Korea or Iran really, but then Iran kind of sprung out there and just terrorism, but it didn't really become a big thing till later, and so did North Korea. And it's always about having the enemies ready at the gate, right? And so we have to always be prepared for war. So since Trump has come into office, the tables have been dramatically reset. So who's the enemy and who's the friend? Well, on the enemies list now we can actually put the Five Eyes groups. England. Never got our true independence from them. Surprise, surprise. Maybe a deal was made to actually finally break away, because everyone thinks so anyway. They were already separate, but the legality of the initial charter, the Virginia Charter, that was set up in the 1600s. There was never a resolution to that, and we had to pay war reparations that go to the victor. So after the Revolutionary War, we paid out, so we were not the victor. Very strange situation, isn't it? So what we have right now, though, is we've had these, we were set up, the world stage was set up for World War III. Who are the enemies? Russia, Iran, North Korea. All relatively on the side of the one, a triangle on the side of the other world, right? So you've got Russia up here, North Korea down there, and we have Iran over here. So, but what we're finding out is that these were deep state puppets. If you think about the world, the bloodline families, they've had these wars between them back and forth, right, on different sides or different royal families. And I'm not really talking about the 13 bloodlines, right, but the in general, the monarchies around the world were always fighting each other, but there were some specific families and rivalries and things of that nature. But what came up was a battle between the, let's call it the banksters and American industrialists up against the monarchies, really to remove the monarchies from rule, most of them. So of course, the England still maintained theirs, or part of that. The other monarchy per se would be the Vatican. Though it's a papacy, it's still just the same as a king. And we had the Asian royal families, and we also had the Russians royal families. And we know that the Khazarians basically had a grudge because they were trying to set up their system of world domination, and of course, through banking. And the Tsar of Russia kicked out the banksters. They kept being kicked out. I think we should get an idea about the money system and really remove it from the control of the banks, and actually, for that matter, probably from on the bigger picture, remove it from a group of countries to control all the currency of the world. It may also be a problem. We really need to have a currency for the world that the people agree to, and then the governments adopt. And the governments then have say over what's going on in their geographic region. No problem with that. They should be the controlling element of that. But there should be power to the people. But anyway, we're digressing a little bit. So in these power systems, we had the Romanovs in Russia, that they were displaced, right, from power. Communism was set in there. China, communism was set in there, so the world family is there. And Iran, Shah of Iran, royal family, removed from power by the deep state. The CIA removed them and made Iran a puppet and put us into this show of 50 hostages under Carter. Then Reagan got them out. Who was the vice president of Reagan? Bush. So this was like stepping stone to get to the presidency. And we had North Korea. So we had the North and South Korean War. And now it was split up. So again, tension spots were created. Now, when Obama was leaving, we were set for war with Iran. You could tell. I mean, not really. Well, Iran, they gave them $1 billion and 1.7 billion in cash, and 150 billion in other transfer of electronic money. But North Korea was set up for the big fight. And what happened? Trump started, calling them names, and poking fun at him, and literally, changed the dynamic to where now we can see that Kim Jong-un, with his tweeting, Trump was in Japan, and then the deep state was coming after them with firing some missiles, make it look bad. Kim Jong-un said, okay, well, I'll just pick on Biden just the way Trump does to show in alignment with Trump. Now we have Iran. Iran is now the bad guys, right? What's happening? We have they're blowing up ships in the harbor, right? This seems like an act of war. Of course, Trump comes out and says, it was Iran, and Pompeo comes out and says it was Iran, and Bolton comes out and says it was Iran, and don't do that. We're gonna strike back. But that's for show, just like it was in North Korea. They literally are working behind the scenes to stop this madness. Don't need to go to war. Don't need to create this scenario of terrorism around the world as the reason that we have to militarize everyone, and everyone's documents have to be presented just to go to the restroom. So now there's word that a major deep state black site in Iran now has been taken out. And this is just goes to show, just like Trump firing missiles into Syria, right? Remember? Oh, see, he's strong now, right? But he actually hit the enemy there. Where before, under Obama, they weren't hitting the enemy at all. They were actually taking out the good guys who were trying to suppress ISIS, right? And now Bush was actually getting rid of ISIS, and they wiped them off of the map, right? Remember, he held up the paper. Well, in North Korea, where we have this thing moving along, and there's going to be an agreement there, and now we also have Xi Jinping from China now going to North Korea for a visit. Hasn't happened in, I think, 14 years. A Chinese premier, president going to meet with the premier of North Korea. So there's a lot of shakeup happening, right? A lot of things changing, but this, I think, is highly important to really focus at what is really the war here. What front lines are we on? We're on the front lines of actually dismantling the deep state around the world. That includes Iran. That means a deal with Iran that is literally to stop the war, to stop the fighting, to not be on the brink of war for World War III. And this effort is happening. And so, who took out the deep state area of Iran? Was it actually the U.S. military side taking them out, or was it actually people in Iran taking them out? Keep in mind that this, the Ayatollah was came in after the Shah was extracted, right? And what happened to the fortunes of Iran and of the Shah of Iran? Again, money was taken from them. The power was removed from them by this deep state, by the cabal, banking, corporate, whatever you want to call it. Also, there's another little side note to this is on the front of we've been talking about Michael McKibben and Leader Technologies and Thomas Gabriel on American Intelligence Media. They had another interview, very informative, but really talking about the war between the NSA and the CIA and what the CIA did. And I literally am collecting a lot of the gold from around the world and putting in banks, and that is their system, and how that gold should be literally picked up. Right? It was taken by a rogue CIA. And what is the CIA? It's a corporation that is a sub corporation of the crown, right? Which is supposed to be part of America, right? But it is headquarters in Switzerland, if you didn't know, not Langley. So we're right there at this time, looking at how Iran is now being taken off the board of the enemies list. And I don't think that England is going to stay on be put on the enemies list officially, right? It could be that they're going to look really bad when this stuff comes out, and there's going to be some slapping around of what are you doing, and hurt feelings and all this. But we need to get into a position in the world of building for a positive future, not about this previous colonizing efforts been going around the world. The people of each region are the people of each region. That should be respected. Those are the countries. The local areas should be respected. It should always be back down to the people who have the ultimate power. In this financial system, we are recognized as the surety to the debt. That's just the way it is, whether you like it or not. It is set up that way. We can decide to dismantle it, but we have to all understand it. That means we all have to be able to be in position, change our standing next to it so that we're beneficiary and not the one supposed to be the trustee, which, quite frankly, is Trump, the head of USA Incorporated. And that is who is responsible for all the bills generated by that entity. So we've got a lot of front lines here, but what is good to note is that we literally are moving into the direction where the deep state is being unseated in Iran, being unseated in North Korea, and it looks as though it was already unseated in Russia, and that's why they've been made the enemy. Since Putin came in and the USSR broke up and Gorbachev and all the rest of that came around, it was about removing the central banking system, the Rothschild system from Russia. And when they did that, that's when they became the bad guys again. Yeah. When you have control of the media, the control of you can decide of all the money, you can control who the enemies are, right? Who you say the enemies are the enemies. And when you don't play ball, you're the enemy. Yeah, I'm sure Fiji now is going to become the enemy. They take over and create a new system based on abundance and recognizing the value of the people. And recognize that people are sovereign and on the land and not out on the ocean and under piracy of the seas of the maritime law. Maritime law should probably also be changed. How about that? No more piracy. Stop piracy. Stop maritime law. Stop all these functions of that are crazy commerce things that are forcing people into positions. Step across that threshold, and all of a sudden you're in the jurisdiction of a boat. All that craziness. Whatever it takes to do that. That's where we need to focus. So, all right. Well, I'm going to play just about 5 minutes of X22 report. Let me get that set up. This is then we'll go open up for questions. Anyone have questions? Please post them in the chat, and we'll get to that right away.
And try to get something started. But we know that Trump is not going to fall for this. And what we're seeing is that there was something else at play with these tankers. Now, the Japanese government, they've been requesting that the United States provide concrete evidence to back its assertion that Iran is to blame for the attacks on 2 tankers near the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, the individuals on the tanker say it was a flying object. Now, I believe Pompeo, Trump, Bolton, they all went out there and they kept the story going, and it was for a specific reason. First of all, they wanted to keep the mainstream media very, very busy, thinking that Trump is going to war, that we're going to invade Iran. And he did this with North Korea. The reason he is doing this is because he's working on a backroom deal with Iran, which I believe is already done. Now we're getting word that Iran has dismantled a CIA-run large U.S. cyber espionage network in Iran. Now, this is very interesting. So there was an entire intelligence black site in Iran, a network of CIA officers, and they were dismantled. It looks like the black site was removed from Iran. And what does that mean? It means that Iran is now free to operate without the intelligence operatives telling them and forcing them to do something they don't want to do. And why do you think Obama, Kerry, the Obama administration, why do you think they were all out there speaking with the Iranian officials? It was for a specific reason. First of all, it was a violation of the Logan Act. But secondly, why would they be so concerned if it just had to do with a nuclear deal? The only reason you would go to speak to someone is if you have skin in the game. if there's evidence there and you're trying to hide something. Because otherwise, you just wouldn't care unless it affected you. That's why these individuals were out there. And I want to go back to post 1454. This is
okay. That's basically all I wanted to basically go over. Just to kind of give more perspective on what we're talking about here. So I'm gonna zoom in on our chat. Right, we've got hello everybody. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's also switch it to live chat instead of top chat. Okay, hello everybody. So if someone's having a problem with the chat buffering, that's interesting. You never know, it can be localized issues too. I know that they do a lot of stuff with geographical area blocking, right? They'll actually could, in a certain area, turn it all the way down and all the ways up in another area. They got a lot of controls on it. Once Iran is under our control, Israel glass is going down and be exposed for the corruption. Yeah. Well, it's a very interesting issue right now, considering the idea Israel as a country exists, the government, the people living there, they're all living there as a country. People born there, people have jobs there, built businesses, built a life. You can't just say now, oh, well, you were Khazarian mafia plan under World War II to set you up, and it's just, all the Baal worshiping, criminals that created this, so you guys all go home now. They're all home, right? And so are the Palestinians. So what do? You basically, say, okay, forget the two-state solution. That's divide and conquer. You're all in one state now. Let it be formed. Let it be settled. Settle all the borders as they are, and just stop everyone from fighting. So okay, that's it. Don't oppress the other side. Let everyone go about their business. And if there are terrorists, they're creating issues, those are what you're going to have to deal with, right? But most of that is deep state. All of this formation of battling everything has all been manipulated by the deep state, CIA, and the rest of them. These rogue CIA actors, creating, training programs, finding people in the mosque and getting them all radicalized. This is a process that they developed to create this crazy actions. So we need to really allow these things to settle out. All right, so we'll continue here. The final Cabal stronghold. Well, we don't know how many there are. Remember, there was all the ones underground. There's a lot of problems with those. A lot of them have collapsed, and they used the energy weapons that were used for starting the fires and everything else. Those things have all been recaptured or taken over by the Patriots. And remember when there was this ringing tone around the world that was a repeated pattern? So this is not an earthquake. This is not an earthquake, And then that actually caused collapse of a lot of these underground facilities. So interesting. We'll see how many other things are. Of course, there's Venezuela. That was again another hot spot, right? Again, created by the deep state. Remember, there's also deep state actors in China. And even as Xi Jinping wants to, move on and do the best for the country, maybe there's elements within that government that want to keep the deep state rolling under the Rothschild plan. After all, they were going to be the rulers of the world. Hard to give it up, right? Yeah. The Astral War is here. Okay. What are the astral weapons looking like? Oop. Okay, question. I see one here. Yeah. What's your take on the federal rent checks that are advertised all over the? I don't even know what that is. Federal rent checks. Why don't we take a quick look? Let's not do it in this one. Let's start in the window. Federal rent. Okay, I have no idea what this is.
So what is the deal with federal rent checks? Right now, there are a lot of ads and emails going around that you can collect federal rent checks of up to $7,000 per month. So is this legit or is this a scam? You probably have received an email that looks something like this. So these emails are right now going around where it says, "Dear reader, right now any American taxpayer can get simple instructions and position themselves to collect federal rent checks of up to $6,945 over time, possibly more." Now, let me ask you, have you received any of these emails or have you seen any of these ads? Because this is the hype right now. And it says that there's a little known investment strategy to start collecting yours right here. When you click on this link and follow it, it'll bring you to a website that basically talks about these federal rent checks. Please review the following information to see how you could receive $1,795 or more every single month. Let me just give you a brief background and let me talk about whether this is legit or whether this is a scam, because I believe that you need to know this. The government needs office space, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it is the FBI or CIA or the Department of Justice, the government needs office space. These days, they are leasing it. You see, the government used to own all the buildings, but years ago, in order to spruce up the balance sheet, they sold the buildings because this gets a lot of money in, right? And now they're leasing it back. There are other advantages for the government to lease their own buildings. It looks better on their balance sheet and in their budgets. Now, I looked it up, and there's actually 9,600 government buildings that they are renting back. Now, when they rent it back, obviously, the government has to pay rent. And this is the premise of these federal rent checks. So the question now is, how can you benefit from these federal rent checks, right? And this is where the newsletter comes in. Now, this newsletter that's being sold here is by a company called Money Press. Now, Money Press is a newsletter provider. They have really clever copywriters. I've met some of them. They're incredibly talented. And so they're selling newsletters for $47 a year or $99 for 2 years. Now, do you need to have the newsletter in order to understand what this is all about? No, you don't. No, you don't. So let me help you to save some money and explain to you what is behind all this if you're seeing these ads or if you have received one of these emails. These government buildings are in a so-called REIT. What is an REIT? It's a real estate investment trust. In a nutshell, what it means is that an REIT is managing these buildings and they need to pass on 95% of their profits to investors. So you can buy shares in an REIT. An REIT is trading at an exchange like a stock. And this is what makes this concept so intriguing. We'll look into this to see if it is worth for you doing this. So what do you need to know? First of all, the government doesn't own their own buildings anymore. They have sold them. So somebody else owns the buildings, and this is an REIT. They are paying rent, and you can get a share, a part of this REIT, by buying it like a stock that pays dividends. There are 2 REITs that have these government buildings. And again, this is where the newsletter.
Okay, I think that explains it. We get it now. All right, so that's what that's all about. So it's not a scam, but someone is charging you for information on how to invest is what's happening there. First, $47 you pay us, and then we'll tell you how you can go ahead and buy these REITs. There we go. I had no idea about it, never saw one of those emails. Okay, so where are we at now? Lost track of where we are. It just rolls on by. That's the one problem with leaving the page. OBEs. Q, tank stop taking orders, part 1 backed up. I don't know what that meant. Okay, I'm going to just go up to the top here and work my way down again. That's probably the best way. Again, we will be starting up again about an hour now with Dank Live. Oh, send Tui the link? Okay. Tui wants to come on. No problem. But I went back all the way to the beginning. Oh. Yeah, here it is. Okay, Tui has the link. You know, I did not post it also on Where We Go When We Go All .love Telegram group yet, but I just did. So the link is there as well. If anyone would like to jump on, everyone is welcome. Am I in the right day here? I think I'm in the wrong day. That's what it is. Well, Tui's got the link anyway. I didn't close down the previous one. That's what's going on here. Here we go. That's why it didn't make any sense. Sorry about that. That was from yesterday. I had the window still open. There we are. Question. Do you know of any that are working with large Tesla engine, one big enough to run a community? Well, interesting question. There are several initiatives out there, I could say, that are working towards this. Some say that they're building them, some have them built. I don't know specifically which one to point anyone at yet, but I think that we will be discussing one on here, probably within the next couple of weeks. How about that? And we'll go on from there. All right. Oh, we're at the bottom. Oh, we made it. See, Louis caught me. I was looking at 107, not 108, where we're at. Okay. Well, that was it. All right. Well, again, if anyone wants to join, please jump on. We're open to talk about anything. Really, if you want to talk about Tesla, I've been pretty excited about some things going on with this since it looks like Tesla was manifesting a reality in which his inventions would be used for the good of all humanity, involving a multi-generational plan, including Trump's family, to move this forward. Now, whether time travel is involved with it or any of that, I don't know. There is some theories out there that time travel was involved with staking this out. There's a lot of things that kind of like lead towards presenting that this information has gotten out into the zeitgeist of the world. There's, in manifesting realities, there's a lot about getting people's minds focused on certain topics. whether it's in the Simpsons cartoons where Trump is shown coming down the escalator after announcing he's running for president there, and then it also happening in real life. How did that imagery happen, right? Was that part of a plan? Who put it there? So some seem to think that there's it's part of the dark cabal that's doing this. But if we have a group that was working towards this, that also went into the U.S. military, and it became the U.S. military's plan to save the world. I know, I said, hey, this is Tesla's plan to save the world via Trump. This looks like, to me, something very powerful that is unfolding here. If you're going to have someone manifesting with the focus of Tesla, I think we're going to see a lot of things happening that are going to be very interesting. How everything flips over. It's all about getting into position for things to happen, for the reality to shift. Maybe it also has to do with astronomy and space of the planet within the solar system, and the solar system in the galaxy, and within all the cosmos, all tied into it. All of that is a possibility. We live in an electric universe. Everything is energy. Tesla, had a lot of theories as to how things worked. His theory of how photons and gravity are the same, but they're different states, is very unique. This is something that is along the lines of something that I was thinking of back in my early 20s. I actually wrote the formula E is equal to minus G. I jokingly would say E is equal to anti-gravity minus G, but I was really referring to the inverse of gravity, that energy is part of it. But in Tesla was looking at it as photons are the opposite of, or not the opposite, the counterpart or another state of energy that is watching the flow that happens through magnetic resonance. And we are all magnetic resonance resonating beings from our DNA, like a tuning fork. It just sits there and vibrates and pushes our code out, and we are here as physical beings from that. Let's see. Anyway, let's see what anyone else has to say here. Catch up with a few things. Seems to me many trusts, St. Germain Trust, Manna, and a few others have heard of what the differences are. They're all the same. They heard people keep talking about St. Germain. On that point, Tank has said that Kim has looked everywhere and can't find any St. Germain Trust. So when the trust that Kim is the trustee for is the one that everything got registered to. And in the world today, when you think registered, I went down and I registered to vote. I went down, I registered my car. I went down. Are you saying that you went down and put your name on a list? You went down and put your car on I recorded your car. You made a record. You added to a list, or are you saying you, in a regal fashion, put it on a list of assets of a ruler? To register is to basically turn that asset over to another, specifically a royal, specifically a trust. that is a holding all of these items. So while it keeps holding on it, all the items. So when the countries, when the United Nations were formed, and they told all the countries of the world, well, if you want to participate in the world financial system and share in all the wealth and the abundance, you have to do this process. Here's the register for the asset you want to place, and then we will give you an allocation of money. And in fact, we will roll that up for projects that you have in your country. We'll give you a World Bank identification number for that project. We will then throw your asset into the mix and generate a lot more cash for it. And then it'll go out, and you will now have 10 times that money that you put there for that asset. So let's say you had $1 million in gold. Well, now you'd end up with 100 million in cash by putting it on the trade. These trading platforms were designed to escalate the amount of cash by trading the projects. So the countries all said, hey, sounds like a good deal to me. And so for 50 years, 60 years, they went around until 2008, registering their assets to the trust. If you had gold, hey, you want to trade it? Anyone rushing to do that? Did you know you were turning over the ownership of that gold, even though you're holding it in a bank over here and paying fees and all the rest of it? You registered it. You're no longer the owner. You're the holder, and you're dealing with the encumbrances of dealing with being held by a bank or wherever you're holding it. But you registered it so that you could have cash to play with. That's the system everyone bought into. So if let's just say 80% of everything, all the land, all the gold, all the art, all the jewelry, all the things of value that anyone would have wanted to pledge. Do you register your cars? Oh yes, you do that too. So your cars are also registered. You register your house. Interesting, right? Do you register, your children? A certificate of birth certificate. They're certified that it comes into existence, and then you pledge it as a surety, right, for the trust to manipulate. So the trust has everything. So Saint Germain doesn't seem to be really anywhere. It is a fantastic story to follow Saint Germain and how he, reincarnates himself or pops into existence and always has this large sum of money. Where did this story come from? Where is this asset? Okay, let's see. Grand trusts like Saint Germain and other low-level trusts are nothing short of imaginary. Kim has laboriously consolidated all the subsistent trusts found on every inch of the globe. Yeah, I think it's really a matter that there were many different trusts that were smaller caches of them, and they were all brought under one for this plan of one world order that they were to put into place. And all to be done by 2012, and then they had a 5-year extension. But by 2008, they were done, and all the platform trading stopped. And what happened to the world economic system? The first hiccup. I was right there at the time that this happened, waiting to get a bank loan with a pre-approval letter from Wells Fargo. I had a partner. My partner in this deal, he literally had, I think it was 2.1 million in cash in the bank. Cash. The house that we were buying, this was a real estate, project. Right? We were going to basically, it was a very good area, and we were looking at, how this was going to be more valuable 5 years from now, right? Doubling the money kind of thing. And so we started with a pre-approval letter to put, I believe it was 20% down to start. And the bank would lend the rest. Again, keep in mind, same bank where my friend had 2.1 million in cash. So basically twice as much in cash in the bank as was the property. So putting down, 20% and borrowing the rest and paying on the monthly mortgage on it. They didn't close. They refused to move forward, and then they came back to us and they said, "Oh well, you have to put a little more up." I think they asked for something like $30,000 more in a down payment. No problem. Okay, boom, done. 2 more weeks. And I said, no, you actually have to bring it up to 30% down payment. No problem. Bam. Agreed to 30% down payment. While this was going on, the whole world system for in 2008 for real estate and everything froze. No mortgages were happening. Nothing moved. Nothing. Again, as I said, my friend had double the amount of the property. Could he have basically bought the property? Sure. But with these strange things happening all at one time, it was like, what's going on? Why would this be happening? So anyway, I saw this, in a front, right in front of my face happening, and a deal that should have gone forward, and the banks would not close. They had no money. The spigot was turned off just one day. So now fast forward, we had quantitative easings happen. A lot of this cash move out into the system by the Fed. Trillions upon trillions upon trillions added in and circulating out there in the economy. But that only has taken us to the point where it's hard to even get cash now. It's in circulation to keep things going. But you can't get the economy to expand too much except when new cash comes in. And this is what I've taken notice. And I said that the U.S. through Trump and the Manna World Holding Trust took in new money. And they had a first quarter GNP of 5.2%. If that was for a year, it was phenomenal. China has to maintain 6% or their population will rise up for the year. Yeah, under Obama, it was like 2.8 to 3.2% per year. 4% GNP was considered full employment. 5% GNP was considered an extraordinary boom times. 5.2% in the first quarter? That means 25% a year? Maybe 22% per year? I'm sorry, 21%. A little ahead of myself. So 21% a year. GNP, that's because the new money floated out into the economy and circulated. It gave room for expansion. The money coming in from tariffs from China, 250 billion, moved in, building up what's going on, an economic boom in America. And now, as Trump is telling the Fed, lower rates. let things grow, right? Lower the interest rate. They raised it so quickly under Trump, right? And he says, "What are you guys doing? You're killing us, killing the economy," and got them to stop. And now he's telling them lower the rates because we're going to keep this rolling. And it's at a standstill. Let me go back. Yeah, I'll check and see if we have any last questions. If not, we'll close it down for now, and I'll wait. So about half an hour, we'll start Dank Live with Dank. We leave off anywhere here. All right. Well, I think we're good to go now. Thank you, everyone, for participating. 77 watching, 29 likes. Don't forget to add your likes. Very important. Be sure to subscribe. Check back with us for Dank Live in half an hour. Join me on Where We Go One, We Go All.love. Subscribe as a member. That helps. Just $1.11 a month, or $8.88 a month, or $99.99 a year. I call all those numbers. All have a good meaning to them, and we will look forward to continued growth this new year. Oh, this is fantastic. Okay, see you guys later.